so today's challenge is to see if we can make a replica of this. Now this is the steering column shroud, but it's a left-hand drive one. Now, annoyingly, this is handed. So if you look down on it, you can see there's a shape to it. So if you square there and quite a shape there, and that allows for the left-handed drive car, the steering column come through an angle like that. But you remember, as we've moved ours over the right-hand drive, the steering column now comes through more like that. So what can we do? Well, what we can't do is use that bit, but we can use this bit, because as far as I can see, this we can flip round. So that's good news. We can use that bit. So we need to make something that looks like that, but mirror fashion. Now I did consider seeing if I could 3D print it, but that's quite a shape, and it'll be hours and hours of messing around with CAD work, which is beyond me, if I'm honest. So what I'm going to have a go at doing is make a steel one. So I can take a pattern off this, even though I'm going to make it in a few bits, which would be most likely the case. I reckon we may be able to make a replica of that in steel, then use like a black Gravitex or Gravitex and paint it black to give it a textured finish. Because that texture finish isn't dissimilar to the Gravitex look anyway. And then use this front piece then to finish it off. What's the worst that can happen? Right, let's have a go making a template of this. Now I think the simplest thing is going to be to do is just wrap it in tape and then cut it perhaps down the side there, or look for somewhere obvious which we could use as a cut line, like down there or something, to to make our pattern with. Let's just have a go and see what happens. Right, okay, that gives us our entire piece wrapped up. I'll trim this off now with the blade, and then I'll look at it to see which would be the easiest way of cutting this into sections that we can work with. I think, right, let's trim it up first and then get a feel for what we want to do with it. It's a bit of an experiment. I've not tackled something this complex a shape before, but we'll certainly have a go. Mostly because when these come up for sale, the right-hand drive ones, they're ridiculously expensive, or they're just not available. I think Motorsport Tools do a fiberglass replica, but again, it's just fairly pricey, so I'm not ruling it out, but I'm going to have a go at this first. And what's the worst that can happen? I can fail, and then I know for definite it can't be done. Well, I can't do it. I'm sure somebody can. Right, that's most of the shape. Obviously, you've got the lip here that we can add on afterwards, and little pieces like this for clamping on. But that's easy enough to add these bits together later. But if we can get the basic shape started, then that'll be a good start. Right, so if an obvious place to make a cut line is down there. So let's get that one first. Right, I think that's our first piece. Let's get a pen line across there, I think, before we start taking it apart. So let's get a pen line down there, from there to there. So now we've got a fold in that. Right, let's see if we can get this off of here now. that'll be part 1 for there. So where next is the question. Do we go down the line there and then make our bevels and weld them on along there and along there? I think it might be a sensible thing to do, because you've got very slight crowns in all of these, and we can be easy to get those crowns in. I think, yes, okay, let's do that. So we'll be looking at a line down the center there. This one would be following that around there, along there, I think. There, more likely. Yes, the most complex piece is going to be this here, so we can probably follow that around there again. Right, we'll worry about that piece later. Right, okay. Yes, okay, so if I cut these down and then stray those out, we can use those as patterns for our steel. Oh yeah, that's not so bad. Of course, what we want to be doing with these is remembering to turn them over as a reverse template. Oops. So that, we'll cut it out on the steel and then flip it over to the piece that so it's the piece that we want it to be. Okay, let's mark these up. This is probably a good idea too. That gives us a pattern to work with. So all apart from this piece here, which I know is going to be the most complex piece, will lay out fairly flat. So that's good news. We can cut those out on bits of steel now and get those laid out. This piece, it might have to be a bit inventive with as to what we can do with that, because that bit will lay out flat, but then we got this piece here, which might simply be a case of putting a cut in this corner here and then bringing it back round later. So let's have a go at doing that. Where's my scissors? Now then, that will actually lay out flat like that now. So might be able to do something with that. No, not forgetting that it'll be the other way around, of course. Okay, let's get those cut out in steel and see what we get. So that's the pieces of our jigsaw cut out. Now I must remember that these are going to be mirrored, so I've got to flip them over. I'm going to be very annoyed with myself if I forget that. To cut these out, all I've used is a jigsaw with a metal blade, which is 24 TPI or teeth per inch blade in it, and the steel itself is just straightforward 0.9mm mild steel. Okay, so where to start is $1 million question. I think I'll start with that piece there, which I think would be the easiest piece because it's a nice flat piece. It just needs our bend kicking over on there. So put that back on there. You can transfer that line to the other side, which lines up with that one, and then kick that over. I think I'll simply do that in the vise. So we now want this to mirror that and kick over that way. Okay. Lovely. That follows that piece nicely. Our next piece, which is our top piece here, which we'll flip over, and we want that bit of a crown on it, so we can do this by hand. Okay, that's following that crown of that nicely. What we need to do now is get the edges of these tipped over to start our roll there. And to do that, I think this will do us. Yeah, that'll work a treat for those rolls. Get a feel for halfway. And tap those over. You can get the feel. Yes, you should be able to see that. It's irritating. Yes, that's following the profile of that nicely. So we should be starting to follow that very vaguely. Yeah, those might be a bit ambitious, those little tails there, but we can soon cut those off if we need to. Okay, let's do the side there. Alright, same again, got to remember now that this is going to be flipped over, because this is going to be now going to be on that side. So we've got a very slight roll in it that way, very slight, and those edges to be tipped over all the way down that side. And then, oh, I should have cut that down there. Just finish that cut off on there. There we go. So that's put that cut into there. We've got to bring a roll into that, which should meet up with that one. Okay. Oh yeah, that's following that profile there as it should do. A little bit of a, I've stretched that very slightly as I've tapped it over. It's pulling it in. Put that. Can we see the shrinker in there? Oh, let's get the ends in the shrinker just to bring those back round again. Yeah, just a very light nip in the shrinker just to straighten that back up. Happy days. So where are we? We've got our top piece which is going to live in there. So that'll come around there to bring us our top piece. And that's going to live around there somewhere. Okie dokie. Next bit. Alright, let's go with the bottom piece next, which is going to have to be like that. So we've got a reasonable crown on that as well, bring that round. This bit comes up a fair bit more around this corner. Right, a little tweak over on this piece. And down there. That one stayed pretty straight, to be fair. Right, so should give us, yes, lovely. What I forgot to do is add 10mm to that, but we can worry about that later down the line. Ah, yes. Yeah, I suppose we put a step on that, didn't we? We'll worry about that later. We'll come back to that. If we've got to cut it off and put a step in, that's not the end of the world. Because what we're looking to get is for that to fit sort of around there to follow that. Which I think we're doing so far. Okay. The next piece is the real challenge bit. So let's get these out of the way. The next bit is this here. So this piece first. So we want to bring that sharp edge on that one there. You probably do that as a straight piece. Got a slight curve, slight crown around that. Which we'll do from that way. And that's a bit bigger than that. What have we got to do that around? Oh, there we are. That'll do us. Right, I've lost my bit. There it is. Okay, so let's make sure I'm getting this right around. Yes, that's bent over that way. I think that's supposed to be joining that piece there, so I think that needs to be a bit more gently rounded. Kind of like so. Yes. And then that rounded gently around there. Alright, okay. That's that bit ready to go. Now the real challenge is this one. So you want to, this will be the piece going in around there. Okay. So first of all, we need to get, I'll trim up around there on this piece. Bum, 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 bum. Come on, Dave, think. That way around. To that piece round. Okay. So you want to tap these in around as well, as best we can. Okay, we get too carried away with that. Now this piece, it's all good. I've not allowed the 10mm on that, there. And for rounding over the edges, I made this T-dolly ages ago. I had a bit of scraps, a bit of 13mm solid bar, and just a bit of plate there to weld it to, and happy days. That works a treat. So we're getting our jigsaw pieces together. Let's continue on trying to make this bit the right shape. Right, so this has got to follow that shape around there. Let's start hoiking that around. And bending that over. Get my glasses on so I can see what I'm doing. Yeah, there's a definite shape over across there, so let's get that in place. Yeah, definitely knew this was going to be the most difficult piece, so that's got to be, that comes up around there, so that's from that. So that bit there then has to come around to meet that, of course. Oh, I have a cup of tea. Way.
It's really pale, sorry.
That's fine. Looks a good cup of tea to me. Thank you. Right, I should have put my cup of tea so I don't spill it. Ah, this is starting to come round. So I'm trying to imagine this is the how we need it. So we're starting to make sense here now. So that's the top piece is going to go in there. So that bit needs to come round to suit that. This is a challenge. Right, I'll come back to that bit. Let's continue trying to get this shape correct. I don't think it's a million miles off now. I think it might be time to start tacking this together. Right, that should be flat straight across there. So that's a start. Yeah, I'm starting to fight against myself now. So what I think I need to do is now start tacking this together and then continue the shaping as we go in. Right, time to fire up the welder. Oh. There's the idea. It's looking promising. Oh, we're getting there. That's what we've got to come around there somewhere. I think if I tack this on there first, then that'll bring us where we've got to come around to and get that to tack on there. Sorry if I'm in your camera way, it's very difficult to do this without getting in the way. Need a million hands to do. There we get in there. It is starting to look like a thing. So You see, I forgot to add 10mm there, but I think that might be a case of cutting the other 10mm off anyway and putting tabs on the inside to suit. The rest of it's starting to come a good shape now. That's turned out not too bad around there. I thought it was going to be a bit more of a challenge, but that's come okay. So I'm going to test fit in the car. If I get the other piece. We've got a couple of extra bits to do yet, so we've got a fixing point there to add, which is around here somewhere, and a little tab there that will fit there, which actually slots under the part on the steering rack. So let's go offer it up and see what it looks like first of all. That sort of looks like the steering column shroud, which will live around there approximately. Right, we're on the right tracks here. So there's the shroud in place, just loosely, and that's the front piece, which we can swap over and fit on. So what we're going to do now is find a way of making this fit in there or fit around there properly, and then on a winning streak here. I'm going to find the ignition barrel for that. I can make sure that hole's the right size as well. You open that out or close it up or whatever I need to do with it. And the what you call it, indicator stalk sticks out of there. So yeah, happy so far. Pointing in definitely the right directions here. And we've got our fixing tabs in place now. So one there and one there, which I've doubled over. And you can see that, doubled that over. So it's a nice snug fit into the steering column. Right, let's see what we can do with this to make this fit snugly over the top of it. Right, so if you want that to fit snugly over that needs to be creased in somehow. We also need to put a tab on it, which we could have included on there actually, so we'll have to weld a tab onto there somewhere to allow for that to fit like so. But before we do that, let's see if we can knock these things into suit. Right, well, as it happens, I've allowed an extra 10mm on that one. I didn't need to. The other way around. Okay, what can we do to tab knock that in? Possibly cut that corner off there, cut these corners off, and tap that down. Yes, I think that's going to be the way forward. Okie doke. Right, trim those out and then see what we can do about knocking that in. It's going to go in a fair distance. I don't think my joddler is going to be deep enough. I think it's time to get the old bead roller on the job. I've had a quick spin through the bead roller, and that's about the depth we want to be going to. So what I've done, I've trimmed off the corners off these. I don't want to leave that one flat, and then run these round on the bead. Just those two really, because the bottom one we don't have one on there. So let's see what happens if we can do it. That is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, that looks promising. Yeah, kind of the idea. We've lost a bit of shape here though. Bead roller's done a bit of damage to it. Have to bring that back to shape, I think. It was a bit fast on the bead roller. Right, okay. Lost a bit of shape there, so I'll manipulate that back to the shape we want it to be. Then I think we're not a million miles off there with what you want. Possibly gotta go into there a bit more. Well, that's getting to the idea, so that will fit over that. But we seem to have grown here somewhere, so what I'm going to start doing is taking a slit into this and start bringing this in so it suits this. We've definitely gained some width there somehow. That's not the end of the world. We can do something with that, so bring that to suit that. Yeah, that's looking better. Right, let's weld that in. And away you go. Yeah, now we're starting to look the part. It's starting to fit on there quite nicely, so I need to extend that tab now to suit what's on the original. Let's tab that in a little bit further there so it tucks underneath there. Yes, lovely. Okay, that's much better. Right, let's tap that around to get that to and tack that up. Right, if we ignore for a minute this gap here, because the steering column isn't fully pushed into the steering rack U-joint down the far end of there, so that gap will disappear on there. That's not looking half about. So that's fitting in there very nicely. Quite pleased with how that's come out. And looking from above, you can see it's lining up nicely with the steering wheel and pointing in the right direction. And that's not fixed in place yet. That's just sort of hanging about there loose. So we've got it's fixing to go there yet, and there'll be fixings to go through here onto this indicator stalk and stuff like that. So the next challenge before I go fully welding everything is find the indicator stalk and the ignition barrel and see how all that will fit up. Right, well, this is mostly good news. That all fits in there nicely, just needs a bit of rounding off to tidy that up. Turns out indicator stalk is also handed because there's a very slight bend on it, so need to bend that the other way, so that's not the end of the world. We can soon put a little kick on that to point that in the other direction, but it all fits in there nicely, so that's good news. Happy that that fits in place. So what we'll do now is fully weld this and then grind it up. So I'll fully weld it, show it fully welded, then I'll get grinding on it. I won't bother filming that because it'll be very boring. There we go, that's it all welded up. Obviously needs a bit of finishing and finishing. You can see again, nice, all penetrated in there nicely, so it's plenty of wiggle room for the grinder to clean things up. And I've also added a couple of little tabs in there to help hold the front piece of plastic on. All coming nicely. So next challenge, grind it up tidy. That has ground up very nicely indeed. It's got all the round edges I was hoping for. The only bit I couldn't get to grind up was in there, but by the time I get the thick coating on it, it's going to give it the dappled finish. I think that'll disappear anyway. So what I'm going to do next is give that a coat of primer, a bit of Halford's weld through, and leave that go off. I'm quite happy with the progress of that so far. Right, that's given it a dash of paint. Now, I've thought about using Gravitex on it, but not a fan of having to set all the kit up for it, so I've been to Halford's and got some Tetrasilt stone chip. So let's give this a blast. Hopefully this will give a bit of a bobbly finish. We should do a bit of a test first. Let's see what we can test it on. Hold up. Right, let's have a look. Got a bit of old scrap here. Let's give this a bit of a... that's perfect. Yeah, that'll work a treat. Yeah, so spraying it from a distance in little blurts gives it a nice little dappled finish. Okay, happy days. Let's stick some on that. Lovely. Right, let's see what that dries off like. If it stays something like that, I'd be happy with that. Especially it could become a bit more matte. That's not the end of the world. That's definitely got the look I was looking for. Right, while I've been waiting for the paint or the stone chip to dry, I've made myself useful and relocated that. So just a quick chop and change of the bolt rolls and away to go. So there's the new top hose. So that's a nice new hose there as well. So that fits there very nicely. So quite happy with how that's turned out. And there it is, all in place and looking dandy. So happy with how that's turned out. And mostly it's not really visible, so it's not really that urgent that it's super accurate, but I'm quite happy with how that looks and that does the job. Yeah, from that angle, fantastic. All right, there we go. So the job ticked off the list, so I don't have to go forking out a fortune now for a right-hand drive cowl. So happy how that's turned out. I'm not going to go poking around with it too much because the stone chip is still a little bit soft, so need to harden off for a good few days now before I go poking about further. Need to sort this out, although that bit's hanging off the end of there, so I'm not entirely convinced that that's going to be working. So maybe on the lookout for a new indicator switch for Mark 1 Escort, but that's not the end of the world. I'm sure they're about. If not, we'll do something to make it work. So thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed that. It just goes to show what can be done with just straightforward flat bits of metal and a little bit of ingenuity. So making the pattern with tape first certainly helped, and working out where the cut lines are. They're using the fold over method to get the nice curved edges, and welding across those edges is a lot easier as it happens because you've got two strong edges to work to, so there's very, very little distortion even though you just blasted through them. So that's work a treat. Very happy with that. On to the next one.